feed on my other device so I can see it and find out. We'll find out in just a second here. Takes a minute to show up. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we have a very special guest. Somebody you may have all seen playing a little bit lately. He's been streaming, well, I think probably a vast majority of his games. And he's been doing a great job showing off how to be an awesome player at Flesh and Blood and how to be a good winner, good loser. Hopefully you've had a chance to watch him. But everybody, please welcome Rob Cygul.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Thanks. I'm doing good, man. Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. It's always a pleasure, chatting with you and hanging out. I'm happy to be on your stream, man.
Yeah, glad to have you. Glad to have you. I actually wanted to have you on here first because I wanted to. When I was thinking in my head about what I wanted to do with this show, the first thing that came to my mind was like, I want to make sure that we get a good player perspective. And
Right?
I've been watching your streams and stuff, and I've been really like I said, I've been really impressed with what you're doing. So
Hey, man, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get just more gameplay at a competitive level out to the community. There's plenty of other content out, but I feel, and there's still room for more content in all aspects, but I just feel like the competitive gameplay aspect was lacking a little content. So my motivation there to try to get some out.
makes sense. Are you? I mean, like it's the format. You've kind of evolved it quite a bit, and are you still working on it? You got more to come,
Yes.
or
Are you talking about the format of
the your kick-ass
like the,
stream?
oh yeah. So I've just been streaming um a little bit of like TTS gameplay with other gamers. On Tabletop Simulator. I've also been made like the main thing I've been doing is streaming these skirmish events. LSS hyped up this skirmish event a couple months back, 3, 4 months back, told all the stores like, hey, do you guys want to compete in this skirmish event? And we didn't know what it was. And our LGS said, yeah, we want to do it. And originally it was supposed to be sealed welcome to Wraith in person, but everything that happened, that's going on with COVID and everything in the United States and other parts around the world, LSS took it upon themselves to make it webcam, like a webcam event. So it's great for players because it takes away the pressure of having to try to get out to your LGS, especially if you're not, wanting to go out currently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, be around a lot of people. I mean, we're playing in events that are like 64 people, some great events so far. But
It'd be pretty tough to do that in person right now. So
yeah, for sure. I think the idea behind skirmish was, initially intended 100% for in-person play, but it's almost kind of like a blessing in disguise that they've made it now webcam because more players, strictly speaking from the US standpoint, are able to play with each other in competitive events around the country, which is awesome. I
hmm.
love it. It's great.
Right. So you're meeting some of the people that have the higher experience on the
Yeah,
ladder already.
yeah. Some of the top dogs.
Yeah.
People that are high up on the XP leaderboards. Um, Players that may have haven't ever had a chance to go out and play armory events and get XP in person. They've only had um, small options for like online armory events here and there, so they might not have like a whole ton of XP racked up already, but are phenomenal players. Um, so it's been pretty eye opening and really cool to just play with other competitive players, you know, so
Yeah.
far. So
Yeah, I know at
yeah,
least one event I watched, you were playing against a Canadian fella, and at the end of the match, he mentioned that he was the top ranked in Canada.
yeah, that's
So
Dante actually, and shout out to Dante. Dante's really cool dude. Great player. He's he's a Canadian player, and he plays online armory events. I'm not sure if he plays in person or not in Canada, but he's been racking up quite the XP. I think he's actually number one right now at the time of us doing this.
hmm.
I think he's number one 90-day XP overall worldwide.
Oh wow. Okay.
Even it's the XP system is a little misleading. I feel like at the moment, especially with like COVID restrictions and things of that nature.
Yeah.
XP is basically if you have access to events like armory events or these skirmish events that allow you to get XP, then you can get XP. And I mean, it's 3 XP per win in these armory and skirmish events. Um, but if you're a player and you just haven't had access to these events yet, you might be a really good player, but you're just not really high up on the leaderboard yet because you haven't had access to these events and that XP. So
It makes
it's super
sense.
cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the meta develops as more and more players get involved. And I mean, I know right
Oh yeah.
now, like I it seems like nobody wants to play Brute for some reason. Like I've got this
Oh yeah.
fantasy that I'm gonna be the one that breaks Brute into the meta big time.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, Reinar's wild, and so is like I'll even run into like in a blitz standpoint because talking about the blitz format, and that's what the skirmishes have been. Even KO, the other brute hero
Hmm.
from Crucible, it can just be crazy if you have really good rolls. If you roll I think it's a 5 or 6 when you play an attack action or attack,
Yeah.
it like doubles the attack. So you're just
Yeah.
command and conquering for 12 all of a sudden, and then you pummel on top of it, and it's just like ridiculous.
Yeah. So this guy, 1 to 4 is a miss, and 5 to 6 is your absolute smasher. I don't. It doesn't look like it's focusing very well, but yeah. At any rate, here I gotta hold it down here so you can see it on this camera.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Yep, there he is.
just
Yeah,
just
but
had a trailer
Reinar's
hanging out.
yeah, Reinar's really good as well. I mean, I think we've started to see a little bit, I'll touch on the meta a little bit because that's what you had started mentioning there.
Hmm.
So in the calling in New Zealand, the top 8, we saw predominantly IRA builds. I think there was one wizard build and one Dorinthia build. I could be wrong, but here in the United States and North America, we're starting to see this tall Dorinthia deck um, being the IRA killer, and that's what I've been playing, trying to slice and dice up some IRAs and serve some lunch, if you will, to the fellow warriors.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
So and then you'll start seeing like IRA players throw in yellow unmovables in their deck. One yellow unmovable just to throw a wrench at the Dorinthia player or whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, metas are definitely super cool. It's in this game, the metas will evolve and change over time depending on what's played in each event, right? So
Yeah.
it's you come with a really impressive IRA deck, and then I go talk to all my friends. I've been talking with shout out to Tom Penny over in New Zealand, a pro player over there. And then Davis Kingsley, he's in United States. He won one of these skirmish events. I've been talking with these guys, and I came up with like a tall Dorinthia build. Kudos to both these guys because they've definitely helped me with it.
Hmm.
But it seems like this is the build or variations of it that counters the IRA deck.
So when you say tall, tell me about that. What does tall mean in this sense?
So I think Dorinthia, it has two different play styles or aspects of how she can attack, right? You have this tall aspect where you can swing with the Dawn Blade, the weapon, and the defending player will attack or whatever. And then you play a bunch of attack reactions essentially to build the attack up and go tall with your one attack, or the ability to just boost that attack, with attack reactions like red overpower, just a plethora of other red attack reactions like stroke of foresight, out for blood, especially. Um, Whereas in classic constructed, you see more of a mix of a wider build due to control dash builds and control ninja builds, where all they have to do is play one unmovable from Arsenal and maybe block with one card from hand, and then all of a sudden they've stopped your Hall attack for 10. So you want to go wider, where it's like you'll play a card that will give your weapon go again, maybe like Spoils of War or Warrior's Valor that actually has to hit to get go again. But then you'll try to go wider, so you'll attack with your weapon, and then you'll maybe play a snatch or play like a E-strike with go again into something else like a snatch. You're going more like a wider attack pattern as opposed to dumping all your cards in all your hand into attack reactions going upward in one attack. You know what I mean?
I think I get it. Yeah, I probably need to get my ass kicked a couple more times to understand exactly. But I don't even I know I've played against Ninja a couple of times, but I've won every time with Brute. So I feel like maybe my opponent may have been holding back and being gentle. I don't know.
Right.
I don't expect that I'm actually that good. So who knows?
Well, I mean, brute can be phenomenal. It can be, that's one of those classes that can just be balls to the wall, blowout, insane,
Hmm.
or it could just
Or you
be
get some bad
really
rolls.
bad.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the one and only class I feel like that introduces this outside factor into the game via rolling a dice. If you hit five, four, even four, 5 or 6 on scab skins consistently, you're doing really well. And then the minute you hit a 1, it ends your turn. Literally ends your turn. You have 0 action points. And then you would probably crack the gambler's gloves, which you know all about.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a mainstay in Brute for sure.
Yep.
You have to have it because it allows you to potentially re-roll that dice, But Brute is an interesting class. It's a really strong class, but once you start mixing in that dice roll, it could go either way.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, I've seen it go both ways, and I was surprised to have won at least one of them where I kept rolling really bad. But at any rate, there was a question in the chat. When does the XP leaderboard reset for next season?
Interesting question. So currently, the XP leaderboard on the Fab TCG website, the way it works is 2 categories. You have an overall lifetime XP, right, where it's just your cumulative XP that you've racked up over the course of your lifetime, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so far that hasn't reset. And then there's a 90-day XP leaderboard. And what that does is it just pulls your experience points from the last 90 consecutive days.
Ah, okay. So it doesn't actually reset. It's just a moving window
It's just
of
always
time.
rotating, So if
Yeah.
like you're playing really well for 3 months, we'll say you're winning all your local armory events, you're playing in online events, you're racking up tons of XP, you're playing skirmishes, whatnot. Then all of a sudden, and then you're at the top or whatnot, on the 90-day leaderboard. Then all of a sudden, skirmish is over, or these online events are over, where you've been actually able to play a little bit more than your normal local armory event,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not playing you're not playing in as many, and the XP then starts to rotate and fall off
Yeah.
outside of that 90-day window. So that's very interesting, I feel like.
Yeah, that does make sense. So like right now, people might be racking up a lot more XP than they're typically going to be able to because unless they start traveling a lot for events, a lot of these
Right.
events are going to be played in the flesh and blood at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Which is also very exciting. I think
it is.
this gets everybody hype and gets everybody like, this is a nice segue into some competitive play in the United States. Um, and it's a nice new, everything with this game seems like a nice new fresh breath, like fresh breath of air.
It does.
Every avenue, it seems like it's great. I mean, we'll start seeing hopefully um, some competitive events, hopefully later in this year. But I definitely think at some point we will definitely see competitive events where you'll travel to these events, like how some players would travel across the country to play in Grand Prix
Mm-hmm.
for like Magic and other events, for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm personally hoping to have the opportunity to do that if I am good at all. I'd like to come out
Yeah,
and
I'm
meet a few
I'm sure
folks
you're
in
gonna make it.
person, and like I'd really like to hop on the tournament circuit when we have one. So
Absolutely, man.
yeah,
Yeah, I would definitely be more than happy to play games with you to get you up to speed as well.
for sure.
I'm just a player. I'm not like, a super great player or anything. I play a lot, and I just want to help other players too around me to, look at different things, um, and, to teach people some, a couple things that I may have not known that someone else taught to me.
Yep. As a player, how do you feel about unlimited prices right now?
So strictly from a player standpoint, obviously the problems with keeping product on the shelf is an issue.
Yep.
Um, However, I feel like this community is really just really good, and the community has been so supportive to new players getting into the game, building decks, sending them out for free, getting the word out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's an interesting thing. We're still in this COVID world where shipping is an issue. There's supply issues, and it's not just people might think, oh, it's just the company. The company's not printing enough, but what people don't realize is that it's not just the company. It's the people that print the cards are probably pulled into doing other things as well.
Yeah,
Um,
they are. They are.
Shipping,
They're
yeah,
actually Cardamundi.
right,
They started making personal protective gear at the beginning of the COVID pandemic.
yeah.
So
That
they've been
that's what I
working on
heard.
it. Yeah, so they've been doing things other than making cards, and it's important work, and
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
they
absolutely.
I'm sure they probably got like new social distancing rules that they have to follow in their
Right.
factories, and maybe they're having to like move equipment further apart than it used to be. I mean, that's got to be just a nightmare.
Yeah,
Trying to
absolutely.
rearrange factory floors. Yeah. Anyway, like.
Yeah, there's just so many variables that have been added into this process of what everyone has just been grown accustomed to of the way TCGs should work, right? Where players, before this game was, out, and just before the past year in general, where it was like you could go into your LGS and there's going to be product on the shelf. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to prices, I think with Unlimited, we're just seeing prices increase right now because strictly that there has been supply issues, and it's not just like a COVID related, supply issue. There's weather delays.
Yeah.
We've been having some nasty weather in the United States,
Yep.
with severe winter storms, and just shipping is just getting delayed in general, on top of having to go through all these like hoops and hurdles and extra precautions just to be safe. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I know we were supposed to be getting our next wave of unlimited back on. I think it was the 7th of February. And as far as I know, none of that has actually hit any LGS yet. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's quite the delay there. First, it was just shipping related, getting the ships into port, and then I hear the storm. Certain YouTube stars mentioning that their cards got frozen in a port somewhere in Texas.
Yeah, yeah,
So
held up. Yeah, in
yeah,
Texas. Yeah, it was in Chicago one week, and now it's in Texas in another, and it's like, okay,
ports
just
all
let
over
me
the
know when
place,
it's
I guess.
there.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like we're all waiting for the same thing. We just want more of these cards available.
Right.
Yeah, like we were talking about it earlier while I was doing a Box Wars event, and we were talking about the prices of Fabled cards, and my thought was that anything over, I mean, I just pulled a number out, nice and round, $500. Like I feel like a Fabled for more than $500, that to me that feels like it's pricing a lot of people out of the market.
Yeah.
I'm
The good.
hoping that we just print the hell out of these things, like, and there's,
Yeah, it'll go down.
yeah,
Yeah, and
I want to see that at 300. You know?
I totally agree with you. From a player aspect, obviously you want lower prices and easier access to the game. And I definitely think Legend Story is making that move and making all the right moves to get us there. We can't lose sight that nobody could have seen the amount of growth and just sheer just like hype and popularity to the game that we've seen, in the past year and a half that the game's been out. I mean, it just literally just blew up,
Yep.
and nobody expected it, and it's great for the game. So I think while we might have to, deal with not having unlimited product for, a few weeks, maybe even a month because it's delayed, I think in the long run, it's a really good thing for the game uh, to look at. Like, hey, there's no product on shelves that, we're trying to get it there, but everyone's buying it. So that's a good problem to have. It's not like the
It's
game
a
is
good,
dying.
yeah, absolutely. It is a good problem to have. And there are a lot of game stores that are doing their best to make sure that the product they get is being distributed somewhat fairly.
For
I
sure.
know,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Compete Sport, for instance, is a great example. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he's only
George over there,
selling,
great guy.
yeah, George is. I mean, I could say a million things about him, but he'll only sell a case to a person online. You know, one case is all you get, and that's because he wants to make sure that there's enough cases to go around. I mean, he's got a hell of a lot more
Yeah.
cases than that. He could sell them all tomorrow. He doesn't have them right now, I don't think, and I don't think anybody has them right now. But
Right.
when
Yeah.
he has them, I expect he'll be fair with them, and it's great to see that attitude toward making sure that the cards are available for players. And you're right, there are folks that are creating, free decks, handing those out. I know I've done a lot of that myself, and
Yeah.
some folks are starting to follow my example. I've had a lot of folks ask, "Hey, how did you build those decks? What are in those decks? What's the deck list?" And it's funny, I never have an answer because I actually outsourced all the work to do that. I have to admit it. I collected the cards and then I sent them off to somebody else to turn
Right.
them into decks. But
Yeah, no, that's
yeah.
a solid play, man. You're doing God's work, you know what I mean? So to say, getting those decks out to players. I mean, especially with like, welcome material like Ira decks not being available currently. The
Mhm.
word on the street is that more of those will be coming with the release of Monarch. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Um, but that's to introduce players into the game. So when that went away, people like yourself and other collectors and players as well have taken upon themselves to really get that product out to players, which I think is just huge.
Yeah. No, I hope it pays dividends in the future is really what I'm looking for, honestly. Like as a player, I want to make sure this game succeeds. I want people to play with in a year.
Oh
I
yeah,
want it to
absolutely.
I want it to be fun, competitive play that I have to really work hard to get to the top of that experience pool. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't even started yet for what it's worth. I got a big zero next to my name, but at some
Yeah,
point,
from what I understand is like the XP thing's great. But you know, you don't need XP to go to like a road to Nats or a calling. I don't believe. I'm pretty sure it's open to anybody.
oh
So
really?
you could
Okay.
walk in there and have never played an armory event, but you play like webcam or TTS all the time at at your home or with
Get
your friends or
good.
whatever,
Yeah.
and just get really good and walk in there and do really well. Obviously, I think the odds, would be stacked against you. Not having played a ton of people and just a lot of different play styles. But it's definitely possible. It's not like you're late on the draw, you have no XP, now you can't get into major events. That's what's
Hmm.
great about this game is like it's available at every entry level down the line. You know?
Well, awesome. Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that. That's good to know that I wouldn't be shut out because I didn't have the time to get to a bunch of the smaller events and stuff.
Right.
That's good. That's awesome.
Right.
I can go to
The
the bigger
game's
event and get shut out there instead.
yeah. Yeah, I mean the game's still fairly in its early stages, I mean it's really big over in New Zealand. It's getting really big here and in Europe and Canada, Malaysia, Taiwan, Australia, a bunch of other places, but it's still fairly, I would say, in its youth. I think once competitive play in North America opens up and we just start seeing big events, road to Nats, callings, having nationals in the United States,
Hmm.
I think we're just going to see the game explode, absolutely explode. You're going to have tons of players that play other TCGs that can't compete right now because they've just done no competitive play until further notice. They haven't tried to do what LSS has done and
Hmm.
created a solution to the problem of no like in-person big events. They created this webcam skirmish event, which we're seeing, up to like 64 player events.
Yep.
Um, all you
That
got to do is, just put a little thought into it and really take care of your players, your player base. And LSS does a bang up job with that.
e-
I
exactly.
give them kudos and shout out to Alan. He runs the organized play at LSS. The guy does a great job, and I commend him for sure.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see what they're doing with a game that was only intended to be played in the flesh and blood, and
Right?
they really are setting an example for the other TCGs that
Yeah.
the other TCGs are not doing a great job following, at least from what I've
Yeah.
seen. So it's
Right.
definitely it's great to watch. I love it. I love seeing somebody come in and really shake things up, and it's gonna make hopefully all TCGs healthier. So. Hey, so we're getting pretty long here. We got one more comment or one more question in the comments that we'll send your way, Rob, and then we'll probably close this down.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry if I'm just running off on rants, man. I
Not
could
at
talk
all.
flesh and blood for days.
Yeah, dude. No, believe me, we'll be doing more of this, and I definitely want to have you back on again. Um, the question here was around Dorinthia. Do you think players are going to counter this go high Dorinthia with more Bravo in the meta?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. Two parts to that question. I definitely think that there will be counters to this tall Dorinthia deck because that's how this game was designed is and and that's how you're going to see the meta shift is one deck beats one deck and then players go back home, study the deck and then figure out how to beat that deck and
Mm-hmm.
then that deck wins a big event and then the next deck comes on and then the next deck and then it repeats the cycle because the very first deck that was oppressive
They're
now
not protected against
becomes
that.
oppressive again
Yeah.
because nobody's playing the other decks, so
Yeah.
with Bravo I think Bravo definitely has a chance to find its way into the meta at some point for sure.
Hmm.
um, I'm not sure 100% right now where Bravo is at with the current meta. From what I've seen is the Warrior matchup in Blitz versus Bravo. I believe that the Dorinthia matchup is favored currently with all of the tall Dorinthia builds that I've been playing and seeing. But that definitely doesn't mean that players will retool their Bravo decks and then come with some secret spicy tech and just absolutely wreck the tall Dorinthia deck. You know, anything can happen, and
Right.
that's what's great about the game.
Right. And it's still in its infancy, so I mean anything. I hear these stories about people taking Cavdane and just like wiping the floor, and it's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
okay, all right, I
yeah. Do it. Paying to use his ability. You know, they lose. You know, your opponent loses one, you gain one. You know, create people are creating coppers.
there's all sorts of interesting like it's gonna be really fun to see what happens.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, man.
yeah. Well, hey Rob, this has been a lot of fun, and like I said, we're definitely gonna have you on here again at some point. Thank you for coming out and having a chat, and yeah,
Yeah, I
thanks
appreciate
for
it,
being a
Chris.
part of
Yeah,
what we're doing here at Flesh and Blood Unsealed.
let's go.
Represent the player, and
Yeah, man.
it's
I
gonna
really
be
appreciate you
awesome.
having me.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. All right.
All right, man. Yeah, you guys have a